you know you need help in your business. The long hours, the never-ending to-do list, the tasks that only you can do. Except, that's not really true, is it? You could delegate. You should delegate. But actually hiring someone, that's another story. What if they don't do it right? What if it's a waste of money? What if managing another person just adds more work to your already overflowing plate? I hear you. I've been there. And that's exactly why I invited online business manager Sandra Booker onto the podcast today. Sandra's breaking down her 4-step process to help you hire and delegate with confidence so you can finally get the support you need without the stress and second guessing. After you listen to this episode, you're going to know whether or not it's time to hire a virtual assistant, 3 specific steps to make sure your VA gets the job done right and on time, and where you can go to find your next great assistant. Honestly, I wish I'd had this conversation with Sandra before I started hiring support staff. It would have saved me a lot of money and several dozen migraines. This conversation was originally recorded for my fundraising event, the Rest and Success Code. I'm really excited to be sharing it with you again today. If you want to grow your business and be deeply rested, you are going to need to hire some support. Sandra's advice could be a total game changer for your business and your well-being. If you love this conversation today, which I think you will, don't forget to share this episode with a few of your colleagues. We're on a mission to help all small business owners become deeply rested, and we can't do it without your help. All right, sit back, relax, and enjoy this deeply rested conversation with Sandra Booker. Welcome to Deeply Rested, the podcast that helps people doing good work in the world take incredibly good care of themselves. I'm your host, retired therapist and disillusioned business coach, Megan Megginson. I'm on a mission to help people like you unlearn the rules that keep you trapped in self-doubt so that you can recover from burnout and finally become deeply rested. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to subscribe to this podcast and join our weekly newsletter at deeplyrested.com/newsletter. Now, it's time for the show. Hey, Sandra.
Hey, Megan. So happy to be here.
Oh, I am so looking forward to this very important conversation. Before we dive in, let me introduce you to our listeners. So Sandra is an online business manager and growth strategist and the founder of Any Old Task, a small but mighty group of passionate peeps who love getting stuff done and helping people run their businesses like a lean but never mean fighting machine. In her efficiently used spare time, she teaches women how to get 50+ K a year in their own virtual assistant practices, even if it's their first year in business. Her clients include familiar names like Tarzan K and Laura Belgray. She's also received accolades in her community like the 40 Under 40 Award, and she's on a mission to help her clients generate the same kind of raving clients she enjoys working with in her own business. Sandra, I am so happy you're here, and I'm really excited to talk with you today about how entrepreneurs can hire virtual assistants, and then part 2, how to work with them effectively, which is where so many of us fall apart. It's so tricky. And I asked you to join us here on the Rest and Success Code because I find with most of my business coaching clients, and even in my own businesses, that entrepreneurs are often trying to do way too many things on their own, right? We're often doing the job of 5 different people, and then we all act surprised when we burn out. Like it's, How did this happen? So tell me, what is your take on why this is important? And also, why do you think entrepreneurs, especially those of us who are more introverted, are so scared to hire support for their businesses?
Oh, yeah. I think that's a really great question. And I think that one of the main reasons I think that most entrepreneurs are scared to hire is because most people who become entrepreneurs are people who have a passion about something and they've decided that they want to run a business. they don't actually really want to run a business. They just want to do this thing that they're really passionate about. So when you start your business from that like very passionate place, it's hard to realize that other people can help you. People think I'm the only one that can do it. I'm the only one that understands what I'm trying to accomplish. So that's like one barrier I find that a lot of people run into. And then like if you're introverted on top of that, do you really want to be having to deal with people in your business beyond what you already have to do to serve your client? And I think that a lot of introverted people aren't necessarily, definitely not all of them, but like not necessarily the best at confrontation. And when you think about hiring somebody for your business, you often think about, oh, but what if it goes wrong? Then I have to deal with that. And, and people are very protective about their business and they just want to make sure that it's going to go really well. And they're protective about their clients and they don't want to be micromanagers typically, but they are worried about handing over the reins of anything.
So I feel like you are saying in really kind words that we're a big bunch of control freaks.
I don't know that if it's that some of us are definitely control freaks and some of us are, unable to imagine somebody else seeing our vision and really like living it. It's hard to imagine somebody else coming into your business and loving your business as much as you love your business.
Yeah, I like what you were saying earlier about starting with this passion. And, and I want to run this business because I have this passion. I want to do this work. I want to make this difference. But I think most of us have no idea what that actually means. Like on day one, we might really want to run the business. We say, like, I'm so excited to work for myself, to be my own boss. But we have no clue what that actually entails.
Exactly. And you hit it on the head right there, because we want to do the thing we love. We want to be our own boss. We want to manage our own schedule. Usually, most entrepreneurs don't ever say, I want to run a business. It's always, I want to do this thing. I want to be my own boss. But they don't think about, like, if you're your own boss, you have to do those things that your boss would do.
Yes, that's such a good point. But we don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah. I think that is the kicker. And I'm really glad. One of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you is because I know you're also an introvert and a highly sensitive person. And you and I have talked about this before, that there are different considerations that we bring into the conversation when we do have these energetic limitations, when we do have these fears and areas of discomfort when it comes to confrontation, to managing people. So I want everyone listening to really look at their business from all of these angles, right? Do you really want to run your business? Are you afraid of confrontation? What's holding you back from hiring? I think another barrier I hear a lot, and I imagine you do too, when people are interviewing you to be their online business manager, this sense of like, I can't afford it. Or you're so like, good support is so expensive. Talk to me about how you meet that objection in conversations with potential clients.
So for me, yeah, a lot of people, and what's interesting about the money objection is it can come from a lot of different places. So you have some people where the money objection is that they're looking at their bank account and they don't actually see how, they're not sure that their cash flow can actually manage it. But then there's also people but like they say it's a money issue, but really they're afraid that they'll be taken advantage of in some way, that that comes up a lot. People are worried that, whoever they hire might just bill them and not do any work. They might ghost them. They might like take the money and run, kind of thing. That has come up a lot. So getting to the money issue is more about getting around the money issue is more about, understanding really what it is. So I try to delve a bit deeper as to what's causing that. And And then the third main thing is just they don't understand how it's going to propel their business forward. They don't see
Right.
the movement forward. So I usually just try and like be very upfront with them about one, what the return on the investment is going to be and how, because it's basically like, depending on what they're hiring me for, it's at the very least, I'm freeing up time in their business that they can then spend doing these other money generating, revenue generating tasks or work. But then also, if I'm working as their online business manager, I can help them get their business foundations in place, making sure that they have something that they're working towards, making sure that we're setting goals and actually consistently working towards them and meeting them. So being able to explain to them what the return on the investment is going to be, and then also addressing any other issues. So if it is like, are you actually worried about your cash flow? Okay, well, let's look at that. Like, what is your cash flow? Let's see what it is and what can you afford. And not everybody is ready, and not everybody's cash flow is ready to hire an online business manager. And as a business owner, you do have to understand those parts of your business. So, but you can, once you know it and you look at it, then you can start making a plan for like, how can you make it work in the future?
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit later about the difference between an online business manager and a virtual assistant. And I think your business can always afford to hire a virtual assistant in a small way, right? So maybe you start with support for 10 hours a week. You don't have to jump off the deep end and go from no support to an online business manager or a full-time virtual assistant. There's small ways you can like wade into this water, don't you think?
100%. Most of my clients started with me at 10 hours a month.
Wow.
And then and it was just about getting some key things off their plate so that they could move forward. Most people who start with me at 10 hours a month, nobody ever stays at 10 hours a month. But they quickly build to like, the 10-hour a week kind of area, or 20 hours or 30 hours or whatever it is. You can start super small. You don't even have to think about it as a weekly thing. You can think about it as a monthly.
That's great. Yeah. It makes the risk so much more digestible.
Yeah.
If you're really scared, and I'm glad that we're breaking down the different fears that can pop up when we're thinking about hiring support. I mean, I've experienced all of these fears myself. One we haven't talked about, but I hear all the time is, I will never be able to find someone who can do it as good as I can do it.
Yeah.
Which is like such BS, I'm like, we're just a bunch of narcissists around here, walking around thinking we're the best at all of the things. I think we'll talk more about this in a minute, but you can always find someone who can do things just as good, if not better than you can do. You can learn how to navigate confrontation. You can learn how to manage. You can start small so the financial risk doesn't feel too massive. They're like all of these fears, it feels like, are really just mindset limiting beliefs. And we can work through them if we just take it slow, check in with ourselves, look at our numbers. This feels really doable.
Yeah. I think about it as like, like mindset and limiting beliefs. That's all true. But to me, it's like you have this belief, like you have this thought, you have this emotion that is connected to it typically. And you haven't, like, because there's usually an emotion connected with it, it's harder to think around. So like when you think about people can't, like, nobody can do it as good as I can. When you think about what emotion might be connected to that, like there's definitely pride that, I'm really good at what I do. And so that's, one thing. And then there's also fear that like maybe nobody else can do it, or maybe I'll find that everybody can do it. And then like what?
I'll flip that on it. Yeah. That's good.
So I think that beyond just the belief, there's an emotion that sometimes is what kind of like stops us from really thinking about it too much and trying to really think about a solution, because it feels correct.
Mhm.
So if it feels correct, then it must be correct, and I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
You know?
One of my favorite quotes is, our emotions are real, but they're very rarely reality.
Yes.
And this feels like one of those times to me. The fear that you feel with whatever is attached to it, like that fear is absolutely real. And I agree, like, we have to meet that with compassion and curiosity. We have to explore what it's all about. But we need to name, if we're going to be successful in business, we're going to avoid burnout, we need to name that fear isn't reality. It's not that this won't work out or that I can't afford it or that it's never going to happen for me. No, that's not reality.
Yeah.
So slowing down, and I'm just, for everyone listening to this conversation, even if you have some virtual support already, but you're in the position where it's time to invest at a bigger level. Because for me, I find the same shit pops up each time I'm ready to level up the support I have in my business. That I feel the same fear going into, I'm working right now on hiring a full-time practice manager for my group practice. And I feel the same fear, the same beliefs that I did when I hired my first virtual assistant for 5 hours a week.
Yeah. Yep.
So this stuff never goes away. And I think, yes, step one is slow down and give yourself some time to really explore what the resistance is all about and have a conversation with someone who is doing it and is reaping the rewards. Because just hearing you talk back to me today about, how you meet these objections, how you frame these conversations, it's so soothing and normalizing. This alone feels extremely valuable.
Great. That's what I'm here for.
Well, let's move into the next question. So I think once we sort through our fears and kind of commit to taking the risk of hiring support, the next question is often, well, how do I know when it's actually time to pull the trigger?
Oh my gosh. So I'm pretty pragmatic and practical when it comes to this stuff. So if you're working more than 8 hours a day, and you probably are, it's time to get help. If you can look at your cash flow and you know that you can consistently pay somebody, say, $500 a month for at least the next 3 months, then, and you're working more than 8 hours, 8 hours a day, you should get somebody. If you're working like 16-hour days or 14-hour days and, Saturdays and Sundays included, you are way past time. And I want to say, like, for everybody that's in the position where they're working like 10, 12, 14 hours a day right now, don't let that, because when you get to that point, you can feel overwhelmed and stressful and just need relief. Don't let that rush you into a hiring decision. You'll need to take your time hiring.
Yeah, I might have done that once or twice.
Yeah, I think we all have.
And I totally regret it both times. Yeah. Never hire anyone out of desperation.
Never, never, never. And if you're looking, oh, well, I can hire my best friend or, my sister or whatever.
Ooh. Oh, I'm cringing.
Yeah.
Never a good idea.
Yeah. I won't say it's never, because there's always an exception that proves the rule. So it is very rarely a good idea.
And you know what? I'm going to be bold and say it's probably never a good idea for people who are more introverted and highly sensitive. Or let's say it even more broadly. If you're someone who struggles with confrontation in any way, shape, or form, don't hire someone you know personally.
Yes.
Because if you have a hard time holding boundaries with a straight up contractor or an employee who you have no outside relationship with, you are going to really struggle setting boundaries in a relationship with, more complex layers.
Yeah, 100%. And even though you've said that, there are still going to be people that are going to be like, yeah, but I really get along well with my sister and we worked together before. And
well, you do now.
So if you are thinking that, just make sure you have them go through the exact same process of hiring as a subcontractor. Meet with a few people, get quotes from a few people, test a few people. And if your sister is still the best person, fine. I'm like, I'm not people are going to do what they're going to do, but I would recommend not doing it.
Yeah, that feels like very sage advice. Thank you. Okay. So, and I would say, just from anecdotal experience, if you're wondering if you need to hire support, you probably should have hired support 6 months ago.
Yes, probably.
I think for most those of us who are hesitant to pull the trigger on making these types of investments, and I do really like for myself, I try to think of my support as investments and not expenses.
Yep.
It's just like a little mental reframe for me that puts it in, in a more positive light. But yeah, usually when I'm really sitting down thinking about, is it time to invest in another type of support or another layer of support? I should have done it months ago. And I'm
Yeah.
getting closer to the desperation point. So hire, yeah, I think everyone listening to this conversation is probably ready for at least a little bit of support. Is my guess.
Yeah, I would say most business owners are very quickly in a position where they should be having some support. So,
Totally agree. Yeah. Okay, so let's assume that everyone listening now is on board and they're like, all right, I worked through my fear. I've decided that it's time to hire. I've hired my first person. I want to talk through, Sandra, your 4 steps to successfully delegate tasks to your VA. Because a lot of people that I work with fall apart at this stage. They do the hiring and then they get the person on their team and they're like, oh, I have no idea what to do with you now. I have no idea how to work with you effectively. So I want to hear the full framework here. What is step number 1 for successfully delegating to a virtual assistant?
So step number 1 is going to be like, first of all, figuring out who you need on your team. So before you actually hire, take some time to actually figure it out. So when nowadays, like virtual assistant, that term, when business owners say it, they usually are thinking about a general administrative person, but they, not everybody thinks of it that. I speak with a lot of business owners who think they say, "Oh, I really need a virtual assistant. I really need somebody to manage my social media." Like, oh, okay, but that's not necessarily a virtual assistant, So what you really need to do is figure out exactly who it is, what the role is that needs to be filled. What's the main role? And what you can do to figure that out, like the easiest way, because you're currently, if you're the only person in your business, you're wearing all the hats. So you are, CEO, you are accountant, you are bookkeeper, you are general admin person, you're everything in your business. So start by doing a time study of your time. So taking like just for the next 2 weeks, mark down. And I used to say just like during the day, like from your working hours, mark down it every half hour. But then I listened to Alex Sherfin. And I have to thank him very much for this, but he recommended from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, as an entrepreneur, it's unlikely that you have strict working hours. So from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night, for 2 whole weeks, every 15 minutes, write down what it was you just did.
Yeah.
And then at the end of those 2 weeks, you'll have a really good outline of like where all your time is going. You're going to start seeing like where those times where you're just scrolling the endless feed of Instagram, but you're also going to see how much of your time is going to general administrative work, scheduling appointments, onboarding your clients, getting blogs up, things like that. And how much of your time you might be actually spending on creating graphics for social media and content for social media and all of those different things. Once you have that, you can see where the biggest need is. So if at the end of your day, because every business is different, usually you're going to find that the general admin work is what's really eating up a lot of your time. But I have spoken with other business owners where that's not the case, where they have very little admin work in their business and the big need for them was social media. They just needed somebody to help drive their content. So do the time study, figure out where the biggest, like where you're going to see the biggest bang for your buck in regards to getting stuff off your plate. And just, you're going to group all of the like tasks together and then go from there. So I would say like that's step 1, knowing who you're looking for. And don't fall into the trap of looking for a unicorn. Like if you see like,
right.
I have, I spent 10 hours a week on general admin, but I spent 5 hours a week on social media. That doesn't mean that you should look for a general admin person who does social media. It means you should look for a general admin person. If once you get them on board and they're working out, if they have the skill and it turns out maybe they can help you, it's fine to have them help you with your social media. But don't look for that person because one, they're very hard to find. And two, those are going to be competing work modes. One's going to be very creative and one is not. And
it feels like you're almost cloning yourself, right? The problem that we're trying to move away from is wearing too many hats.
Yeah,
as an entrepreneur. Yeah. So we can't just hire one person and then ask them to also wear a bunch of hats and expect that to go well.
Exactly. When you can't expect them to wear a bunch of hats and expect it to go well. But at the same time, when you're first starting your business and you first bring somebody on, sometimes you might be in that position where somebody is going to straddle two kind of roles. It's usually good if those roles are complementary if you're going to do that.
That makes sense.
But eventually what's going to happen is they're going to compete with each other. You'll see this when we get into the whole difference between the VAs and OBM. You'll see this a lot. Some VAs that call themselves OBMs that do both types of work for the same client. And it always becomes a mess because one type of work will seem more urgent or just seem more interesting to the person. And then that's where the priority goes and the other thing falls off. So that's why I say like, look for the one person, fill that one major role. Then if you're going to expand the role with that person or find a second person, preferably to do that other piece.
That is so helpful, Sandra. And I want to just anecdotally add into the mix. I'm definitely team hire multiple people. And I feel like I learned this lesson the hard way early in my business when I found someone, tried to kind of like groom them into being the unicorn, and then they unexpectedly had to quit. And I was screwed, like all of a sudden, everything was on my plate again. And from that moment forward, I was like, no way. Like I'm going to have a bunch of people doing separate things so that when like stuff happens for people on my team, I'm not alone. I have these other people who can, we're diversifying the load. And I just, this angle that you're bringing in that feels so helpful, not expecting every person on my team to be good at all of the things, like allowing people to really thrive and to do the work that's most interesting to them. But if you do have to pair tasks with one person, make sure the tasks are complementary. That's when you see it work most effectively.
Yeah. And make sure that you're doing it mindfully with the understanding that it's temporary.
Okay.
So if it's no good if you're just like mindlessly just delegating tasks, all sorts of different tasks to the same person, that's going to get you into trouble. But if you're like, okay, I need help with this piece as well. I'm going to see if this person can help me for the next little while until I can either develop the role and find the person or whatever the breaking point is.
That's amazing. Okay, well, before we move on to step 2, could you define the difference between an online business manager, an OBM, and a virtual assistant?
100%. So first of all, like the term virtual assistant is more of an industry now. You do find a lot of people that call themselves virtual assistants that they specialize in something, but they'll still say they're a virtual assistant. So you'll get, virtual assistants, the standard ones that are general admin. They handle all of the like day-to-day stuff in your business. But you'll also hear of people calling themselves social media VAs and launch VAs and like tech VAs. Those are all people that they specialize in something, but for whatever reason, usually it's because they think it's the easiest way to get clients is they tack on VA and just to say that they can do other things as well. I try and steer clear of those people or those roles, because when I'm hiring, I want somebody in that role, and I don't want to get them, because of everything we just said, I don't want them to, be in a role that they're not enjoying or doing work that is not the priority or whatever. I really want to focus. But not to say that you can't hire them, just make sure that you're not giving them too many different things. If you're going to hire a launch VA, have them helping you with your launch stuff. Don't just then start giving them a bunch of extra stuff.
Makes sense.
So the OBM, an online business manager, you do get, again, virtual assistants who call themselves online business managers, who will do the day-to-day stuff, but then they also do high level helping you figure out your key performance indicators and your metrics and setting your goals and managing your team and managing your process or your projects and stuff. But the real online business manager doesn't do the day-to-day stuff. Because those things are competing tasks. Trying to look at all the high level stuff and be doing the low level stuff. It's hard to do, and you will find that something is going to drop off and be lost. And so your online business manager should be somebody who helps you manage your business. They're going to help you manage your team. They're going to help manage your projects. They're going to kind of help define the culture around your business and help make sure that you guys, the team, is all working together towards the same goal. They're going to be, running reports and helping you understand the metrics of your business, and making sure that you have standard operating procedures in place to make it easier to bring team members on. Those are the kinds of things that they're not going to create the standard operating procedures per se, but they're going to help you identify what needs to be created. That's kind of what an OBM would do for you.
Sounds like magic.
It is.
Okay, small question before we move on. Do online business managers ever support entrepreneurs who have brick and mortar businesses? I'm thinking therapists, for example, therapist in private practice who's maybe expanding. Could an online business manager support that type of business that isn't entirely online?
Yeah, 100%. You would probably, depending on the business, you might have, if they are solely completely online and, not local to you and therefore can't come into the business, there might be some processes and things that you have to work through to make it work. But for the most part, they can, they would be able to do everything, because they can meet with your team online. You can have they could have access to all of your services. The only time you might run into a problem is if you're if you're a therapist, and you have HIPAA compliance to worry about or anything like that. You just have to make sure that they're working within the same compliance.
That's a really great reminder, making sure that's taken care of. But I think I would love for more service providers who don't consider themselves to have online businesses to see the usefulness of actually having an online business manager, even though you don't think of yourself as having an online business, because everything you just listed out, helping entrepreneurs create their key performance indicators, tracking metrics, analyzing data, identifying where you can create standard operating procedures. Yeah, that would be tremendously useful for more busy service providers. So we'll plant that seed now for the folks listening. Don't disregard this conversation if you don't think of yourself as having an online business. All right, let's move into step number 2 for successfully delegating tasks to your virtual assistant.
So, for delegating tasks to your VA, a lot of people get stuck in the well, if I have to show them how to do it, I may as well just do it myself.
Yes.
That kind of.
I hear this at least 3 times a week. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm always like, okay, but is this a task you have to do once and never again? If so, okay, yeah, do it. But if this is something that you have to do again, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, it doesn't matter how often, if it's a repeatable task, then it's an investment to show somebody how to do it so that you don't have to do it anymore. So I would say that like a lot of people think that they have to have all of their standard operating procedures actually built out before they can hire. They think that they have to have like all these big walkthroughs and things like that. And they have to know every single task somebody might do. You don't need to know all that. All you need to know is like the tasks that you need to get off your plate right now. And then depending on who you hire, if you hire somebody that has a lot of experience, especially with the type of work you need done and the programs you need, you probably don't have to do anything. You just have to tell them the outcome you need and they'll be able to do it. But if you're going to go with somebody who's maybe a bit less experienced, what you can do is just next time you have to do that task, record yourself with Loom or, Screencast-Matic or whatever program, record yourself doing the task and just talk out loud to yourself about what you're doing. And right there, you have an instructional video that they can use not only to do the task, but then to actually create an SOP for you. So
such a win-win.
Yeah, they'll be able to build that out and you don't have to think about it. And
That's right.
they'll have the full walkthrough and be able to create like the documented process for you and complete the task.
Yeah, it's such a no-brainer. And Loom, and for anyone curious, it's LOOM. It's a browser extension. Couldn't be easier to use. It will take you 5 minutes to download it and figure out how to record. You can record your screen, record your face. This is so manageable. All right, so first we're going to record ourselves doing the task that we want our virtual assistant to do. And that moves us right into the third step, which is what?
So the third step is to not worry so much about delegating a task and worry more about delegating the outcome.
Yes.
When we think about delegating a task, we tend to get in the weeds of like, oh, I want you to, log in here, do this, do this, do this. And we give them all these little steps that they probably don't need. If you delegate the outcome, so if you say something like, okay, I want all of my emails that come into this inbox answered within 24 business hours. And I want to maintain a high level of, customer service. I want people to come back to me because of my customer service or whatever the outcome is you want. That's what you delegate to them. That's what you tell them is their responsibility. And then you let them come up with the process to do that. Especially if you're hiring somebody that is experienced, because the way you're doing stuff is likely working, but it's not necessarily the best way to do it. It might not be the most efficient, or it might not be getting the best results that you could potentially be getting. So allow them to use their experience.
And it circles back to what you said earlier about releasing the fear that either they're not going to be as good at it as you are, or even that they might be better at it than you are. Like, give them space to show you how good they are at completing this task. And I just be open to the possibility that they just did it better than you. That feels, those are my favorite moments when someone who is supporting me does it better than me, more efficiently, faster, better results. I just want to give them all my money in that moment. I'm like, oh my, this is amazing. It feels really good actually not to be the best person in the room, the most responsible, the most capable person in the room. It feels really good to let yourself be taken care of and supported by the people you are paying to do that for you. So delegate outcomes, don't delegate tasks, don't delegate steps, delegate outcomes, and then watch as the rest unfolds.
Yeah. I do want to say, for the people who are worried about, being taken advantage of, or that, somebody's going to take an hour to do a task that would normally take you 10 minutes or something like that. So I want to just speak to that. Everybody does things differently in their own time. If you're really worried about how much time somebody might take to do something, when you're delegating the outcome, you can specify hey, can you take 20 minutes and do this, and this is what I'm expecting. And let them say, oh, that's not possible in 20 minutes, just to make sure that they've understood what you're doing. A lot of times, you might delegate an outcome, And when they hear the outcome, they're going to think about, oh, I need to do this, 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 and this. You might just think, I just need this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say like what your expectations is in regards to time, or you can say, I want this outcome. It normally takes me about this much time.
Mm-hmm.
At least they have a benchmark, and then they can come back to you and say, okay, but just so you know, it's going to take me this much time because I think we should be doing this, this, and this in order to achieve this result. Sometimes more time is better.
It is such great
That makes
advice.
sense.
It makes total sense. And I'm just thinking about the importance of really communicating with your team. This is another, in my personal experience, when I have waited too long to hire. I'm often in a position in those moments where I don't even have the bandwidth or the time to communicate with my VA. So just another reason you should hire before you are in desperation mode, so that you feel like you have the spaciousness in your schedule to have a 20-minute conversation with your assistant, to do that kind of back and forth negotiation up front of what you want done. And yeah, just if you're so stressed out and exhausted that you don't have the bandwidth to have that conversation that you just described, I think you are setting yourself up for this not to be a successful experience with your virtual assistant. And that's not their fault. Yeah. That's your fault as the entrepreneur.
Yes, 100%. The other thing that I see entrepreneurs do, especially when they've hired because they're just desperate and they just need help, is that they bring somebody on and then they think, great, it's all getting done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. You still have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. You still have to, but only in the sense that you just need to make sure that it's being done. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to be on your VA like, oh, did you get this done? Did you get this done? But you should be communicating with them to see like what's got done. And you should be doing spot checks as to like how the work is being done to make sure it does meet your standards and make sure that, you know, you're both on the same page. Mm-hmm. You can't, when you do have a team, you can't just ignore them entirely. Right. So I do recommend
that idea.
Yeah. Just like,
especially on the front end, right? It's like, I find that when you first hire support, it's going to take more time and energy from you on the front end to get them set up and to really establish a strong working relationship. So you are going to feel more taxed and stressed before you feel exponentially better. Yeah. So as time goes on and you have a great relationship and you know each other really well, you can check in less and less.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, you need to be prepared to be involved in the process so that they are supported and they're doing the work to your expectations. Does that feel right to you?
Yeah, exactly. I like when I bring somebody on, I meet with them every day. Yeah. And it's not a long conversation, but it is like a quick check-in to just say like, what did you get? Like, we don't go over everything they did, but we'll be like, what did you struggle with? What was your like win today? And we might spot check some of the work and just like do it quick. So we're usually like 5-10 minutes tops. And out.
That's great.
But this way, like when I'm first hiring somebody, I can know right away. Like I can usually know within 3 weeks whether they're going to be a fit or not.
I love the spot check. I'm taking that away from this conversation. That idea of just quick spot check. Let's look at a little piece of this. Is it good? Or, is there something that's not lining up? Well, let's move into step 4, which is all about reporting, kind of bringing this full conversation together.
Yeah. So reporting is a beast. It can be something that, or it can be a beast rather. It can be something that people get really tied up in, thinking that they need to have every single number in front of them all the time, that they need to know like every single thing. Like I hear so many business owners say, well, I want a VA who's going to tell me exactly what they did and how much time it took them to do it. And I'm like, why? That is just going to be a waste of your time. It doesn't matter if it took them half an hour to answer 15 minutes when you think it should only have taken them 20. What you should do is look at all of the things they accomplished in a set amount of time. And then you can decide, like, does that feel right? Like, if you have a VA that can, load 5 emails that handle your inbox, load a blog, like, and they do all of this stuff within like a very less, this time frame. And you're like, shoot, how did you get all that done? That's amazing. Like, great. You don't need to look at, oh, well, they took 45 minutes for that blog and it only normally takes me 15.
Yeah.
Well, they probably did it better. They probably did extra things to make it awesome. So just so you know. So don't get too wrapped up in like the tasks and time reporting, but do keep on track of like what, we set this expectation that this is going to be done. Has it been completed? And knowing like, if you've set specific goals and if you're working towards a specific outcome that has like a really strict deadline, or how are we moving towards it? So I really do recommend using a project management tool. If you're not using one, you really should be using one, so that you can manage these things, manage your goals and your deadlines so that you can say, well, you can see we're all working towards this one thing, but we should be halfway there by now. And we're actually only 30% of the way there by now. So what do we need to do to get on track? And then your regular KPIs like that you run for your business, you should be looking at as well. Those are going to be dependent on what your business is doing. But one thing that you might want to kind of look at is, oh my gosh, is just like how much time you've been able to get off your plate and like what did you replace that time with? Some people, some people like they will get that time off their, like get all that work off their plate and then they actually don't know what to spend that time doing. And it goes,
what do I do with myself?
Exactly. Or it ends up going to a place where it's something that they don't need to be doing, Now, once you have help, keep that person up to date as to what you're doing as well. Like have those conversations, because one of the ways that I build my relationship with my clients is we always talk about like what they're doing, because then I can say, oh, why are you doing it? You shouldn't do that. That's in my realm. I should be doing that. And tell your VA that you're giving them the autonomy to help take stuff off your plate by volunteering that kind of information when it's something that they can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, nothing makes me happier than when one of my support folks say, why are you doing that? I could do that. Like, oh, oh, right. You can do this. That's amazing. That's such a joyful moment to have. Again, it's creating a team that makes you feel cared for, right? That they're looking out for your well-being as the business owner and they're actively trying to make your life easier. That's
exactly.
Such a great invitation and to let them know too, like I'm open to hearing from you when you can see that I'm outside of my scope, right? And that really should be something that's on your plate. I think that's really lovely. All right. So
sometimes you have to let them know that that's an option for them.
Yes.
People won't take that step. And then just before you move on to say that you need to be, like I mentioned that I meet with them every day, my people every day. You don't have to necessarily get on a call with them every single day. I like doing it face-to-face. I do recommend doing it face-to-face. But you can, if that's not a possibility, you can just have them doing reports to you. And basically what you want to focus on is, again, the goal, like you're working towards a certain goal, but asking them like, what's the most valuable thing that they're working on today? And then, are there any like obstacles or anything like that? Is there any issues that they need addressed in order to move forward with their work?
That's awesome.
So like usually we get on a call and it's like any, questions, concerns, critical issues is what we say. It's like, do you have anything that needs to be addressed in order for you to move forward with what you need to get done?
Do you have any questions? Do you have any concerns? Are there any critical issues that are blocking you from doing the work you've set out to do?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And then
let's all write that down on a Post-it note.
Yeah. Questions, concerns, critical issues, and then wins. What was your win from the previous day? Yeah.
That's so great. Thank you for sharing that framework. This is all gold, Sandra. You're spewing gold to us right now. It's fantastic. All right. So we have these 4 steps. I have 2 more just like pro tip questions for you as we wrap up our conversation on successfully delegating, getting tasks off our plate, all in the service of not burning ourselves to little crisps. So 4 steps, just to summarize: figure out who you need on your team. Don't be afraid to hire multiple people. You can take it nice and slow. Don't have to jump off the deep end. But figure out who you need. Don't look for a unicorn. Be specific about the kind of boundaries of their role, their job description. Record yourself doing the work. You don't have to get it all figured out for them before the day that they start. Just record yourself doing it and then ask them to help you build out standard operating procedures.
Yep.
Determine the outcome that you want. So delegate outcomes to them. Don't delegate tasks. Don't delegate steps. Give them the agency to flex their own muscles and to maybe even teach you a thing or two about how you could be doing things better. And then finally, create some streamlined reporting processes so that you are on the same page with your team about what is expected. And then you have metrics to measure success. How are they doing? How is this role supporting you and supporting your business? That is really fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. So, pro tip question. I'm wondering if you can give folks some advice on where they can go to find high quality virtual assistants.
Oh, so I like to, one, they can always reach out to me because I do mentor and train VAs, and I usually have 1 or 2 great people that I can refer to.
I hope you don't regret saying that.
Yeah, I didn't regret saying that. But if everybody I know is filled up, just ask around. Most of us are in some sort of paid Facebook group for like a mastermind or whatnot. Ask around in those groups. Ask other business owners who have had VAs for referrals. I've got most people find them really well just by posting online, like, this is what I need.
Yeah.
The key to finding a VA is finding VAs are easy. It's taking the time to figure out which of these millions of people are actually great for you, and for what you need. So just make sure to hire slow and meet with a bunch of people rather than too many people just take the first referral that somebody gave.
Yeah, desperation.
So meet
take
with
it slow.
3 to 5 people at least, and then decide from there.
Okay. I love the word of mouth. I have found all of my best people through word of mouth referrals, and it's much less overwhelming than posting on Indeed or going on some massive online job board. So just tap your networks, right? This is why we have networks in the first place. Okay, that's great to know. And the second question, now this could be another hour-long conversation. So folks, we're going to just give you a little bit of advice about this, and then you can take it from there. But my question is, how do you know when it's not working and it's time to let someone go? And the question I get from my business coaching clients all the time is, am I asking for too much? Am I asking my assistant for too much? Is it working? Is it them or is it me? So Sandra, how do we know if it's them or if it's us?
So I think that, this could be an hour-long conversation, but I think the easiest way is to do that daily meeting with them, that daily check-in and the daily spot checks of work. You will know within 2 to 3 weeks tops if they're the right person. If they're, after the first week, still asking you how to do some of the basic tasks that they have to do every day for you or every week for you, if you find yourself, repeating the same things to them over and over again, if you find that you have to put tasks in the system in your project management tool for them rather than them, there's going to be some of that as you think of stuff. You might put things in, but if they're like, oh yeah, just assign that to me. If you verbally tell them a task and then they ask you to assign it to them in a project management tool, they're probably not going to be a good fit. Because a VA, their whole purpose is to take work off of you. So if somebody says to me, hey, I need you to do this, it's my job to put it into the project management tool so I remember. It's not my client's job to do that. So those kind of things, you'll know if you're meeting with them regularly. It'll be very apparent.
I think that is fantastic advice. It's all about that onboarding period, those first few weeks together. And again, you need to be prepared as the entrepreneur. That first month that you're onboarding someone onto your team, your workload is going to increase. There is no way around that. So you need to prepare for that. Maybe take the week off from seeing clients. Do what you need to do to manage your schedule so you can be checking in every day. You can have sessions where you guys sit down and collaborate on what you're working towards. And I agree, if you do that, you're going to know if it's a good fit or if it's not a good fit. And also, it's okay to trust your intuition too. So if you didn't do that and you're months in and it's just not working out, you don't have to force it to work.
Yeah.
You can, find someone who is a better fit. So, okay, I'm resisting the urge to ask you 1,000 more questions about that. We'll have this conversation season 2 of the Rest and Success Code.
There you go.
How to know when it's time to let go of your virtual assistant. Well, Sandra, you have been so generous today in sharing your wisdom about this process, how to know when it's time, how to overcome your fears, how to delegate successfully, where to find these folks, how to set yourself up for success so you know if it's a good fit or if it's not a good fit. I hope people listen to this interview multiple times because there is a lot of good information here. Before we wrap up and I tell people a little bit more about where they can connect with you, I have one final question for you that I'm asking all of our guests this season. Sandra, I would love to know, for you personally, how do you know when it's time to take a break from your business? So when you're kind of getting closer to burnout, and what is your favorite way to rest?
Oh my gosh. So I'm still trying to find what I don't burn out very easily. So I'm still trying to find like those signs that I'm burning out. But I think it's usually if I can't sleep at night, I'm getting pretty burnt out. If I'm like just tossing and turning and thinking about work, then like I can't shut it off at all. Then that's usually a sign for me. And then my favorite way of just relaxing, like if I can do anything, it's just going to be sitting on a dock at a lake, surrounded by trees, and quiet, and listening and reading my book, or just listening to nature. Like that is, or going for a hike. Like that's my best way to unwind.
Oh, that sounds so...
That and punching my punching bag behind me here.
Oh my gosh, that is a punching bag behind you. I didn't realize that before. That's amazing. So depending on your mood, you're either going to, beat up your punching bag or meditate in the woods. Such a well-rounded person, Sandra. That's fantastic. And I love this invitation for all of us to notice, like, hey, if you're not sleeping, might that be a red flag indicator for you that you are pushing yourself too far, you're edging closer to burnout? So thank you for sharing that. It's so helpful to hear. And it's great. I mean, every conversation I've had so far, we've all had such different answers to that question, which just speaks to how different we all are and how burnout shows up in really different ways. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, 100%.
Sandra, thank you again for joining us today and sharing this incredible information. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too, Megan. Thank you so much.
How are you feeling? Ready to call in some support to help you run and grow your business? I really hope so. Hiring my first VA almost 10 years ago was the best decision I've made as a business owner. If you want more of Sandra's practical advice in your inbox, which I highly recommend, you can grab her free business blueprint at sidekickcoo.com. That's sidekickcoo.com. Thank you so much for listening to this Deeply Rested episode. I can't wait to talk to you again next week. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Deeply Rested. If you enjoyed this conversation, I would love to invite you to join the Deeply Rested weekly newsletter. You can sign up at deeplyrested.com/newsletter. I hope to meet you in my inbox very soon.